In this video, we're going to show you to install ignition coil boots on your Jeep Grand Cherokee located on top side of your engine. You're going to grab your upper engine cover, just gently pry upward on this. We're just lodging the cover from the plastic push pins in various positions on top of the engine. Set the cover aside. We use our flathead screwdriver, loosen our clamp here on our air intake tube. Over here by the throttle body, we have our air intake temp sensor. We're going to use our small pocket screwdriver, and you want to push in on this little tab right here and pull the connector off. Sometimes you can use your finger on there. Ours is stuck a little bit. Pop that off. And then right behind it, we have our hose clamp here for our intake tube. We're going to use our 5/16 socket. Loosen and remove that. If you have a stubby flathead screwdriver, you can use that as well. We want to go ahead and remove our intake tube here. Now underneath, this is supported by plastic push pins like this here going into a rubber grommet. So we're going to gently lift up, popping that out. Then we can remove our hose ends and set this aside. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our wiper cowl. That's going to give us better access to the hardware along the back of the engine. Remove the hood to cowl seal. We're going to use our trim tool. Pop up on the little retainer button here. Pull this up. Follow it over to the passenger side and do the same over there. Remove this cover. Unscrew this here. There's a little tab down in here that we need to pry this off of. Pop that off. We're going to repeat this process for the driver's side. Want to remove our wiper blades and arms here. Want to pop up on this cap. We're going to use a small pocket screwdriver. So pop this cover up, and underneath we have a 5/8 nut. Loosen and remove that. Before we remove our wiper arm, if you want to, you can go ahead and identify the placement of the wiper blades by using a piece of masking tape and just run it across the bottom of the wiper blade to leave a mark. We have a nice dirt line right there, so that's going to leave a mark for us to go ahead and know where we can rest our wiper blades. So just fold this up, give it a little wiggle, and pop this off of the wiper transmission. I'm going to throw the nut back on here for now. Now right on the back side here, there's a little tab or button. You can normally get your screwdriver underneath there and pop that up. Just going to throw the nut back on there for now. Now our upper wiper cowl comes across and comes up the top of the fender. There's a couple clips in here that you can use your trim tool and just be gentle. You won't mark up the fender or chip your paint. There's just little clips in here that you need to undo. Here we go. These clips, what we're doing is when we reach down inside, there's a center of these here that we're pushing down on to release the locking tab on the inside there. There it is. So there's the 3 of them there. We're going to do the same for the other side. Here it is. We'll get all 3 of those out there. Gently lift up on the cover. Do the same on the driver's side, and then we can work this cover off. Now our wiper transmission itself has two 10mm bolts holding it. There's one over here on the drawer side, another one in the center over there. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove these. It is now completely loose. It is a capture bolt, so that means it'll stay in place while we remove the transmission. This one here, we're just going to pop that one out. Now in the center over here, there's a rubber grommet that goes through a bracket, so we can just take the transmission, slide it towards the driver's side, up and out. You can see the rubber grommet right here. Now before we completely remove this, we need to disconnect the electrical connector from the motor. Press in on this little tab, grab that connector and just wiggle that free, and then set the wiper transmission aside. In the center section right here, we have four 10mm bolts to remove this bracket right here. Two here, two on the cowl. On the passenger side, right behind the strut tower here, there's another 10mm bolt. Now behind your passenger side valve cover, if you follow this straight back behind your transmission dipstick here, there's another nut in the back over here. Right behind your strut tower and to the right of your AC lines, there's another 10mm bolt. We use a short extension. Grab that bolt, pull that out. Using our extension and swivel socket, we're going to go ahead and get to this upper back bolt. Pull that out. On the back side of our cowl here, we have our wiper harness. I'm just going to use our trim tool and go ahead and pop that off of there. Now we can go ahead and maneuver this, twist that up and out, and set it aside. Before we pull any of our components here, we want to go ahead and cover our throttle body. And you can use a vacuum if you want. We're going to use our air hose and clean off any debris around the top of the engine so we don't drop anything down inside. We now want to separate our harness from our throttle body. Now there's a little red lock tab right here. I'm going to use my pocket screwdriver and just come around the back side here and push that red lock tab out, push down on the tab on the front and wiggle this off. Slide this off. And then disconnect the little clip here. I'm going to come around to the map sensor on the back side, pinch down on this tab, pull that connector off and just swing that harness off. Tuck that off on the side there. We're going to twist our map sensor towards the back and pull up on it. Just a rubber O-ring sealing that up. Go ahead and set that aside. There's a vacuum hose on the back side here. I want to go ahead and twist that off, and ours is stuck a little bit, so we're going to use a pair of hose pliers. I'm going to gently grab this here and just twist it. Finesse that a little bit. We don't want to crack the intake, but now that we have that loose, we're going to twist it and pull that off. On the back, there's a vacuum hose here with a little clip. Undo that clip, separating the other hose. Using our trim tool, We're going to release this harness. There's a little clip on the back securing this to a bracket right on the back here. We want to get this harness out of the way. Pop that off. Here we go. On the back side here, we're going to use a pair of pliers. I want to pinch this hose clamp here. Open that up, slide that back. I want to remove this hose off the back side of the intake using a pair of hose pliers. Go ahead and grab that and we'll loosen that. And wiggle that off. Back side of the throttle body is a vacuum port. Grab this hose here. Give that a little twist to break that free. And lift that up and off. On the back passenger side here, we have a 10mm nut. I want to go ahead and loosen and remove that. So once you get the nut off of this stud right here, on the back side, there's another stud. There's supposed to be a nut here, but someone was already in here before. There's another nut you want to go ahead and remove off of that. Now there's a bracket right here that goes down to the back side. There's a 13mm nut at the base on a stud. It's hard to see, so I'm just going to put my hand back there with a socket and a ratchet. We're going to loosen and remove that nut and remove this bracket. The whole stud came out, and grab that bracket. On the driver's side here, we have two brackets on the intake manifold, and there are two 10mm nuts. We're just going to use our gear wrench, loosen those, and remove these. Set those aside. Pop our vent tube off. And right here on the side of our air box, I'm going to pull off this here and just kind of tuck this over. We can now take this, swing this out of the way. Using a 5/16 socket, go ahead and loosen the upper intake bolts. With all of these removed, I'm going to grab our intake, pull it up, and remove it. Now that we have the upper intake off, you want to take some towels and put them in the intake ports here. You want to prevent anything from falling down inside the engine at this point. So go ahead and tuck these in there. Once we have those there, go ahead and grab that insulator pad, remove that, set that aside. And on our ignition coils, we have a wiring harness that goes to it. Right on the top, there's a little tab. You want to press down on that and wiggle that connector off. On the bottom here, there's a 10mm bolt. You want to go ahead and loosen and remove that. Once that's free, go ahead and grab that coil, give it a gentle twist, and pull it out. Now right here, we're going to go ahead and pull the boot off. Just give this a slight twist, it'll pop right off. And that's the boot right here. Now what we'll do is go ahead and place that spring in. Some of the boots will come with a new spring, otherwise you'll have to swap over your old spring. Go ahead and press that right back on here, give it a little twist, and it'll pop right on. That's ready to install. You put a little bit of dielectric grease in the end of that boot. You take your ignition coil, lower that down inside. Press it down onto the plug. We'll get that bolt started. Now we can go ahead and snug down this bolt. Gently snug it down. Give that coil one more push to make sure that's seated. Install the harness. Press it on, you're going to feel it and hear it click in. I want to go ahead and repeat this process for the other 5. Before we install our upper intake, we want to go ahead and install our insulator here. Now we're going to remove our paper towels from here. And we already went ahead and made sure that the bottom of our intake was clean. So go ahead and line this up. We have 2 studs on the driver's side of this intake that need to go into brackets. Now with those lined up, we should be able to bring our intake over. We're going to just kind of double check, make sure there's nothing caught in the way. Next step is to go ahead and start to get our bolts caught. So we're going to go around. Now that we have our bolts started on the intake and everything is lined up, you can give that intake just a wiggle and you can feel that it's seated and it's not loose or wobbly. Once you don't have any wobble to it, we can now go ahead. I'm just going to gently snug. We're not tightening these in because there is a torque procedure for these here and a torque pressure. So just get them pretty much seated, that's it. Now this back one here, we did have to source a new bolt for this one here. Now that we have all of our bolts installed on the upper intake, let's go ahead and torque them down. Now I'm going to go ahead and torque down our bolts here. There is a particular pattern. You can go ahead and follow along on the screen here. And we're going to torque this to 89 inch-pounds, starting with the rearward bolt in the back here. Now we went ahead and torqued everything down. If you want to, you can go ahead and do that same procedure a second time just to make sure everything is torqued properly. At this point here, we'll go ahead and start to install the rest of our components and connectors. Now on the upper intake, we have these 2 brackets, and we're going to install the nuts on these here. Get that one installed. Get one on the rear bracket. Using our 10 millimeter, we can go ahead and tighten that down. Just want to snug those down. I'm going to bring our vacuum hoses over. Drop those down. Secure your differential vent tube right there. I want to install this bracket on the back side here. I'm going to bring this up and get that lined up. Now there's 2 studs, one on the back here, one closer forward right behind the throttle body, and then we have the stud here to install down below. Once you get that stud started, we're going to try and thread it in as far as you can by hand. And just kind of reach back there, and we want to snug that down. I'm going to install the two 10mm nuts. It's going to be one here. It's going to be one that goes on the back side here. Just gently snug that down. I'm going to do the same for the back. Now I want to go ahead and pay attention to this vacuum hose right here. This vacuum hose attaches to the back side of the intake. So we're just going to slide this in. And once it's in position, we'll just go ahead and grab the clamp for it. I'm going to slide that up. Grab your pliers. With that in place, we can go ahead and grab our hose here. I'm going to snap that on here. I have this hose here to pop onto the back side. We have a little retainer button right here that needs to go into the bracket. Line that up and push that on. Bring your harness out and about. We have this harness here to press on. Get your connector lined up onto the throttle body. Press it on. And we have our map sensor here. I'm going to line that up, twist it, and swing it around. Then we can install our connector onto that. Press it on, you can feel it and hear it click into place. I want to go ahead and set our back cowl cover back into place. Make sure you watch for the wiper motor harness as we slide this back. Okay, to remove our retainer here, line this up, pop this on, just snug it down gently. We're going to repeat for the driver's side. We're going to install the lower securing nut on this back stud. We're going to install our bolt right down here. Get that started. I'm going to go ahead and snug this down. I'll go ahead and tighten down this bolt. Let's go ahead and repeat for the other side. All right, we have that bolt started there. Snug that down. Let's go ahead and get that one snugged down. I'm going to go ahead and bring our wiper transmission over. Now what we want to do is take the rubber grommet here and slide this into the cover or the tray. Popped it into place. So we have the rubber grommet into the bracket down here. I want to go ahead and get this bolt started on the driver's side. So you have the long bolts that go on the top of this bracket. Get those started, and we have the two lower bolts that go into the lower pan. Go ahead and install the other wiper transmission bolt here into the bracket. Let's go ahead and tighten everything down. Tighten these down here. And slide our cowl cover up and in. And let's get this side lined up. Go ahead and line up the passenger side. Now we can press in our clips here into the fender. I'll repeat this process for the driver's side. We're going to line up our wiper blade with our mark on the windshield and then simply press this down. I'm going to install the nut. Now we're going to snug that down, leave this open. Let's go ahead and repeat for the other side. Go ahead and torque this down to 16 foot-pounds. Do the same for this one here. Once that's torqued, fold that cover over, snap it down. Install your cowl seal here. It's a little plastic button. Pop that in, and it works that into the raised ridge there. Pop that in, work our way around to the passenger side. Line up your intake here. Work that onto the throttle body. The air box here, or the air intake tube, has a rubber grommet that this should be popping into. So I'll pop it onto the air filter box, feel underneath for that grommet, and it'll pop into place. Using a flathead screwdriver, we can go ahead and tighten down the clamps here. Just gently snug that down. All right, snug that down. And we have this connector here for their air intake temp sensor. Line that up, press that on. You're going to feel it and hear it click into place. Now we install the engine cover here. There's going to be some rubber grommets around. You want to line these up with the plastic posts sticking up. Go ahead and press that down, pop it on, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.